used methamphetamine for 15 years, and there was plenty of times when I knew that it was time for me to stop and get clean.
It's a really big deal to have your child removed from your care, because even if you're using and not making the best decisions, it doesn't mean you don't love your child.
The most horrible feeling in the world is being a childless mother.
My addiction was really rough. It was, I was homeless at times. I didn't see my kids, I think, for a year. They lived with my mom. And it was sad. It was really sad. It really broke me down and took away who I was.
Pain was it was too great, and the shame and guilt, which started before my kids were removed, with not being able to parent them and constantly trying to be a good parent.
I didn't know how to parent my kids, and I didn't know how to be present for them. And I had a lot of stuff to work on to heal.
When I found out that I was going to be a dad, that meant more to me than anything else in my life ever had. The day after the kids were taken, I made a promise that I'd walk to the end of the earth if that's what it took to get them back into my life.
When I've looked back, the thing that was the most helpful was, even though it was very hard, it was very helpful in ways to lose my children. But yet it was also one of the biggest blessings, because if something big hadn't come in to show me that the path I was on was not good, I might not be where I'm at today.
What made me want to get help was that I didn't like the person that I had become. I didn't like who drugs made me. I didn't like the things that I did. I didn't like the choices that I made. I didn't like that I wasn't a mom and I wasn't there for my children. I just really hated who I had become.
I had a couple social workers that they would bring me Christmas presents. They would call me and know that it was my birthday or one of my children's birthdays, and they would just be extra nice when that time came around, and that really made me feel special. They would tell me, I know you can do this. You're coming so far.
I had a counselor in treatment that told me that if I couldn't provide structure for myself, that structure would be provided for me. I took that to mean, get your act together, or somebody else will.
We can come in being some of the most argumentative, hardest people to work with, and angry and hurt, and yet turn that around. But it takes time. It takes time. It really does take time to change, and it's a process, and I'm still changing things.
In the beginning, I was very angry with the system. I thought that they got a commission for taking your children out of your home and placing them with other people. I thought that they enjoyed doing this work because they thought they were better than everybody else, and they just looked down on, people that were different from them. You're under a microscope, and it is so uncomfortable, especially at visits. Just having someone in the room with you and write notes about, I don't know, about whatever you're doing or not doing with your child. I didn't need a parenting assessment to tell me that I didn't have a good attachment and didn't know how to interact with my child. I already knew that. If you don't have parenting skills and the relationship with your child was really unhealthy anyway, it's so uncomfortable to try to do the right thing or think, what do they want from me here?
The things that helped me change was one, my social worker, two, the services that were provided to me, like treatment and counseling, going to self-help meetings, and just being willing to accept the help that was being offered to me.
So what really helped me make changes was going to treatment, actually going to long-term inpatient on the other side of the mountain, kind of disengaging from all the craziness that I had here. Seeing hope that maybe I could be somebody different. Hope was a huge thing in helping me to change, and how I got certain pieces of that hope was seeing other people change, that might have been in treatment, or I had mental health treatment too, and that was very helpful.
It's a lot to overcome, so having the social workers that were mindful about how hard it is and all the baby steps, how big the baby steps are for somebody to make changes, that was really important.
The biggest barrier that I faced was myself. Learning how to take responsibility for the things that I had done, and learning that just because I had made the choices that I made, that they didn't have to define who I was. I didn't have a lot of faith in myself or a lot of hope in myself and my ability to be successful. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how to get it. So I was my biggest barrier.
When I first decided to change and be successful, I wish that a social worker would have told me that they were there for me to support me. They had the ability to refer me to resources that could help me be a better person. Resources that I might not have access to otherwise. That this is an opportunity to work on myself and be a better person. That they're gonna support me and also hold me accountable and set me up with services that are gonna do that all too. And just that my past doesn't equal my future. That they're not gonna look at my past and judge me for it and expect me to act the same way.
My caseworker was really easy to talk to. He always understood what it was I was saying when I would call him to talk to him about something. If I told him that this was too much, I couldn't do it, he listened. If he hadn't listened to me, too much would have been required of me. And I would have been being asked to do more than I thought I was capable of doing. I went from not being responsible and not doing anything at all but feeding my addiction, to having to be responsible and make it to appointments on time and schedule appointments. And so if I told him it was too much, he'd listen.
Everybody talks this language that it sounds like a foreign language, and they refer to these terms and these procedures and the dates, and it just all floods you. Plus you're in shock and you feel awful and miserable. You lose your kids, and like for me, then I lost my housing and I lost my car, and it's just so much all at once.
My social worker didn't file for termination. I had asked her not to give me a little bit more time, and that was really, really helpful. And it might have made all the difference in getting my kids back. It was really helpful when I had cheerleaders, that weren't just maybe focusing on the things that I was doing wrong, but equally focusing on the things I was doing right. And that people can change. I mean, I looked like a 15-year-old boy, just sucked up, and I'm glad people didn't give up on me.
The most helpful service for me was IOP. When I went and did my assessment, I was required to do intensive outpatient treatment, and I got to go to a facility that had really great counselors, and I went 3 times a week. I learned a lot about myself there. The other service that was really helpful for me was that individual counseling and the couples counseling that we went to that kind of taught us how to communicate, taught my husband and I how to communicate with each other and to have a healthy relationship, because our relationship wasn't healthy up to that point.
I coordinate a program that's based out of the juvenile courthouse. It's called the Parents for Parents program, and I'm the coordinator. And the program utilizes veteran parents' skills. It takes their experience and their hope and reaches out to other parents that are just entering the system or have been going through dependency and trying to reunite with their children, or just trying to figure out what is best for their child.
One of the other services that I got to utilize while I was in the child dependency was Parent and Child Assistance Program. It's called PCAP, and I was one of the first people to go through their program, and it's a 3-year program, and the PCAP workers would really help me overcome some of those barriers, like transportation sometimes to things, set goals for myself. There was a ton of stuff I didn't do quite then when I was receiving the service, but it planted seeds of for education in my mind that, that was really how to get out of poverty and some of the other barriers that I had. And so, and it gave me an advocate and helped me learn how to speak for myself and advocate for myself in ways.
I mean, we even give up on ourselves when things are hard. So, I just think it's important to remember that you don't want to miss the one that's going to make it.
I would like social workers and stuff to know that we are typically good people making really bad choices maybe, and I don't know. I would hope that through my experience I could show that people can change, and even if we're really, really far down.